Hi everyone, this is Emily Bowen-Moore. This is for Journalism 273 in the Meek School of Journalism and New Media. This video is for InDesign, and we are going to explore some of the tools here that might help you with some of your assignments or light practices or minor projects here. For the class. So we have talked about, let's look at some of these tools over here. We've talked about the selection tool to select specific objects, and you've used that tool for the tutorial practice. We also have the type tool, and you've used the type tool. So I'm going to show you, and you've also used the shape tool and the frame tool. So I'm going to show you just a few more of these tools. We're going to look at the direct selection tool, and we're going to look at the line tool and the pen tool here. Those should help you dramatically when you are doing some other projects or practices on your own. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a box here. I'm going to make something that might be relevant here. So I'm just going to work with figure ground relationships here, and I'm going to create a box. And so we're going to do that just like we did before. And I'm also going to create two more boxes in here. I'm going to make a letter E just out of my own imagination. So I'm going to color that white. And a shortcut that helps when you are creating multiple objects. I could use the shape tool to draw out an exact replica of this rectangle that I have here, or I can select what I have already and just duplicate and move it where I want. So you see my cursor here. If I hold down the Option key, or it would be Alt for a PC, you can see my cursor doubles. Now it indicates that I can duplicate. When I click and drag this image now, or the shape, it's duplicating and it's allowing me to also move it at the same time. So now I have a couple of shapes here. So now I have formed my own little E over here. So you can create these characters either by drawing shapes, or I can use my type tool and create an E that way with any typeface that I would like. So I can type an E here, and I can go up here. I can use this Helvetica New. I can go condensed black, and it's really small. I can size it here. Like say I want to make it 100 points. That would make it pretty big. But you can select and minimize the box and scale it like an image. So if I wanted to scale this proportionately, I could also use my Command Shift or Control Shift keys and make that E a little bigger and scale it just a little bit more. So you can do it one of two ways. You can create your letters certain ways if you would like. So I'm going to do away with this just for a moment. I'm going to go about this a different way. I'm going to change this up just for a second. And once again, I'm going to create my E here with Helvetica New. I'm going to make it condensed black. And I'm going to go ahead and just scale it and try to, instead of So now I've got this E as well, and I want to create a figure ground relationship here. And so I want this to layer but look like the negative space. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to select this text. I'm basically just move the letter on top of the black box, but I'll move it down here so you can see what I'm doing. So I am going to select this, and up here I've got my fill and stroke windows for just type. You'll see that you're addressing the type and changing the type because of the T in the box here. So I'm going to make this the color of the paper. And I'm going to move this on top of my box here. So now I've got an E in place. And I want this box to look like a M somewhat, so for my initials. So In this situation, I would like to create just a triangle up here to kind of make it look like a very bulky block type M. So I am going to create a shape here. And first I'm going to create a rectangle, but I want to adjust this to make it into a triangle. But I'm going to fill it. It's filled with white, even though we can't tell at the moment. And then this time I'm going to go to my direct select tool. And what I'm going to do here is I want to change this box. Instead of having 4 points, I want it just to have 3. So your direct select tool allows us to do things individually with these corners. And the way to use the direct selection tool is, the key to using it is when you first click on the object. If I just click and drag this, it's just going to move the object by itself, kind of like the regular selection tool. But if I click off the object and then I scroll back on to these corners, you'll see these corners are hollow. When I hover over the line, I'll get the slash mark. That's going to allow me to manipulate the shape individually based on its sides and on its corners. So I could move this corner if I wanted to create a weird angle here. I can also, when I scroll over the lines, the edges here, if I click and drag that, then that's going to let me angle and manipulate those sides individually. But what I want to do is I want to create a triangle. So one of the things that we can do that is if we go down here to the pen tool. Now if we open this pen tool, there's several tools in here, and I'm going to show you how to draw with the pen tool in a moment, but for right now we want to use these tools right here, the add anchor point tool and the delete anchor point. When we have these boxes, these bounding boxes, these anchor points or handles, so to speak, are considered anchor points. And anytime we're in another tool, even the selection tool, regular selection tool, even or the direct select tool, I can add or delete an anchor point using this pen tool here. And say I'm in my direct select tool, I can delete an anchor point just by going to the minus key and pressing the minus key. It automatically switches to delete anchor point tool. And so what I can do now is go to that anchor point and just click, and it deletes that anchor point. So now I have a triangle, but I also want to manipulate that triangle to fit in the space that I have here. So I'm going to select it. And again, I'm going to click off the object and scroll back on. And this is going to allow me to move these corners where I want. So now I've created this little triangle up here. And if I go to preview mode, you can see now that, maybe I need to pull it up to give a little bit more negative space. There we go. So we can't see that edge. And so now we have basically a figure-ground relationship here with my little m and my e. So that shows you a little bit what you can do with that direct select tool. And let's talk about these drawing tools just for a moment on this page here. I'm going to go back to normal mode. And once you get your characters together, once you get everything, if you have grouped objects here that you want to group together instead of having them as separate little components, there's a couple ways you can do that. I can select, go back to my regular selection tool, and I can click and drag over all of these shapes that I created, and then I can group them together by going up to Object, Group, or Command G, or Control G, or I can select them individual. Sometimes you might, when you click and drag, you might have other layers involved, and you might grab something you don't intend to grab. So if that's the case, you can select multiple objects by clicking on the first object and then holding down the Shift key, and then you can select all your different objects. And then hit Command G, and then you have your grouped objects together. You'll see the little dotted line. that allows you to know that they are grouped, and if you end up wanting to scale them as a group, you can do so using your Command Shift keys or Control Shift keys. So let's look at these drawing tools here. We've got our line tool, and it's pretty straightforward. It is literally just click and drag and you've got a line. Let me add a stroke weight here so you can see it. So remember, when you're dealing with a line, you're not really using the fill as much as you are the stroke. And you can create all types of lines here, and you can make it thick or thin based on your points here in this cell to the right. And notice my line is not perfectly straight. To create a straight line, you can hold down your Shift key, and that will work in increments of 90 degrees. So if I were to shift, that would give me a 45-degree angle. If I were to go straight across, that would give me an 180 degrees, and same with a 90 degree. So if you hold the Shift key, you're guaranteed to have a straight line based on 90-degree intervals. Okay, so that's pretty much the line tool. It is very straightforward. And the pen tool here, the regular pen tool, it takes a little practice. There's two ways you can go about drawing with this. If you want straight lines, you can literally just click and then move your mouse. You don't click and hold it down, you don't click and drag, you just click and move your mouse, and wherever you click next is where the next line is going to be. And you can create whatever type shapes you want by just hooking back to that original anchor point, and then you have an irregular shape or a more organic shape that you want to create. So clicking and just moving your cursor will create straight angular lines or shapes. Okay, so let's address if we want to create a curved line or shape. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and to create a curved line, it's very similar. I'm going to click initially, and I'm going to move in the direction that I want to go. The next time I click, this time I'm going to hold down the mouse and drag. So this is the difference between curved and angled. So I'm going to click and drag in the direction that I want to go, and then when I let up, then I'm going to keep moving in the direction I want to go. The next click, I'm going to hold it down and drag. Then I'm going to move around, click, hold it down, and drag. And same thing, when you go back to the original anchor point, it will enclose that line and make it a shape. Now when you have curved, arched lines, you can go to your direct select tool and alter those as well. You've got those as anchor points, and you can create areas or adjust those shapes. These handlebars out here are going to give you arches, more acute arches, or you can slide them inward to make them more angular. All right, so that takes a little practice, so it's good to get a hold on that. It's not going to be easy the first time that you do that. So that pen tool takes a good bit of practice. The pencil tool is very similar. It is a freehand tool, and it's going to do pretty much what you tell it to do. It's going to create a little dotted line, but when you let go, you're going to see your line with the anchor points. And I can add a stroke here, make it a little thicker. And if I want to go back and modify that, I can go to my direct select tool like I've showed you, and you can modify and play around with how you want to manipulate shapes there or lines. All right. The only other tool in the pen tool that you might want to know about is this convert direction. This is basically going to give you the option to go back and forth between angles and curves. So let's say I create a curved line here. But I want to change this anchor point to an angle. I can go back here and go to the Convert Direction tool. And when I go and click on that anchor point, it's going to adapt those lines to be more angular. It's not an arch anymore, it's now a corner. So it's going to convert to whatever the opposite of what you have there. All right. So these tools will help you with any basic practice or layout that you may have. So again, we've got our regular selection tool, our direct selection tool to help us create more customized shapes. Our text box or text tool will allow us to kind of create layers of type. And you can use some of the typefaces in the database for your letter forms. And the line tool here, if you need to draw things yourself. The pen tool, which if you see another tool there, just hold down on the tool and you can see what other ones are in there. And then your pencil tool here. And then we've got your frame and object tool. In your object tool, you also have a rectangle tool, an ellipse tool, and a polygon tool. So the same thing would go for them if you were drawing a shape. For instance, an ellipse. So you can see that. And let's say I wanted to create a point here. I could press the plus sign for my Add Anchor Point tool. I could add an anchor point and then press A to go back to my Direct Select tool. And then I could play around with this. And since this is arched, let's say I wanted that to be angled, I could go over here and convert that to an angle. So it takes a little practice, but these tools should give you the knowledge you need to get through any basic tasks that you have for conceptualizing some typographical designs here. So good luck. I hope this helps, and if you have questions, please let me know. Thanks for listening.